Daniel, this Big Ten Western Division race intrigues me. It's got to be the deepest division in college football of like teams, like programs. And I think it's the most intriguing race that we're looking at right now. So before we dive into Minnesota, your thoughts about the way the Big Ten West shapes up?
Yeah, the Big Ten West is interesting, and you kind of talk about the teams that are similar and equal. I also look at the wild card teams, like what will Nebraska look like with Mark Whipple this year? They made some personnel moves, did some nice things in the portal with receiver position, Casey Thompson playing quarterback, and so I wonder what the dynamic will look like. Is Scott Frost going to let Mark Whipple take the reins and make this thing how he wants it? Or is it going to be a little blend of both? It kind of sounds that way to me. Whipple is more of that pass to open up the run type of coordinator. And then you have the background of the option scheme of Frost. So what does that look like? You got Trey Palmer coming in from LSU, has a relationship with Mickey Joseph, the wide receivers coach. Omar Manning, I'm curious to see how Whipple kind of draws things up for him. Marcus Washington transferred in, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, another speed-oriented type of receiver. So they did a nice job of bringing in some skill players. I just questioned the offensive line. That's probably the biggest question mark with Nebraska. But they're the wild card team. You look at Iowa with offensive question marks. Defense should be solid again, like usual. Special teams always props them up and does a lot of good things. I wonder about Iowa. A lot of takeaways last year. That helped them quite a bit offensively to be able to get those short fields. Are those takeaways sustainable? If they're not able to get as many of those, does that impact their offense even more? Do they struggle a bit there? And Wisconsin, the same formula. Graham Mertz at quarterback. Does he take a step forward? We're about to find out. With Ingram possibly helping out with the offense a little bit more, what's that balance like between him and Chris? The thing, Mark, that a lot of people aren't talking about is the coordinator changes across the Big Ten. And there is not a lot of continuity. I think there's only one program with returning coordinators. So that's an intriguing storyline. How do those pieces come together?
Looking at the Gophers, so let's start here. Kirk Ciarrocca, of course, he authored the most successful offensive season in recent Minnesota memory. In 2019, Tanner Morgan, 30 touchdowns, 7 picks that year, and we've not seen him throw that many touchdowns in 2 seasons since. And now we get Ciarrocca back from Penn State. Do we expect the offense? I know it's not a Rashad Bateman, Tyler Johnson. Those guys aren't there, but do we see it taking off in similar fashion?
That's the question that everyone wants answered. Kirk Ciarrocca coming back from West Virginia, was an analyst last year. And the intriguing aspect of that is Kirk had ample time to sit down and go through film and study the NFL, what our defense is doing, talk to a lot of people, and formulate some ideas, because college football has changed a lot. I even asked Kirk about this recently. Where has college football defensively evolved the most over the past couple of years? And he said, it starts with exotics on third down, just how creative defensive coordinators are getting when you're behind the sticks. And then also how teams are taking away the run pass option, RPO stuff, just the different wrinkles, Robin stuff, playing man coverage to take things away. And, everybody's kind of hitting with the crossing routes and coming up with creative ways and answers for that. So what will Minnesota's offense look like? Is it more modern, wrinkled to suit some of the strengths of Tanner Morgan? You look at what he was able to do off of play action, Mark, 75% adjusted completion percentage on those plays, high first down rates. Minnesota, everybody talks about the RPO game with Kirk Ciarrocca back in 2019, but those play action numbers that I just referenced from 2019, that was a huge factor as well. So maybe Minnesota does some things to move the pockets and bootleg play action stuff that ties into their RPO game. But like you said last year, the inefficiency, really it kind of stemmed on first down. They were a 78% rush rate team on first down, 38% success rate within those attempts. My baseline mark is about 47%. So they got to do a lot better in that specific area. Early down efficiency, to be able to put yourself in situations where you're in short yardage and your play action works better, and just kind of fitting the scheme around Tanner Morgan. The name I keep an eye on with Minnesota, I guess 2 of them, Brevin Spann-Ford, tight end, 6'7", big frame, catch radius, very athletic. Staff very excited about the strides that he's made. He had an outstanding fall camp from people that you talk with around the program. So keep an eye on him, and Dalen Wright, a wide receiver, played a little bit last year. Didn't really find his footing just because he was away from the program a little bit. His friend was tragically killed, and then he came back and just never really found complete consistency. Was learning the details, but 6'3" target, very physical, can go up and get the football, dynamic, and Kirk Ciarrocca will find some ways to maximize him maybe a little bit better than they did last year. He has bought in, worked really hard this offseason to kind of master the details and buy into the game. So he's a player to really keep an eye on.
And also along the offensive line, of course, that's been a huge upgrade in recruiting in recent years and development. And the line was massive and experienced last year. Where do we stand up front? Of course, we've got one of the best centers in the country coming back.
Yeah, John Michael Schmitz, potential Remington Trophy type of center. Just the anchor of the offensive line. You look at him, one of the least penalized centers in college football over the past few seasons, reach blocking out the zone scheme, being able to brush up into the second level, finish blocks, does really well off the outside zone scheme. So that's key to have him back. Just the relationship he has with Tanner, the protection calls that they make, huge part of the offense. You look at Ariante Ursary, starting left tackle. He's been developing up. Very athletic tackle that Minnesota, honestly, a lot of people around the program think he could have the highest ceiling overall of any tackle that Minnesota's worked with. Just the flexibility, the quickness, the quick feet to get out and pass pro sets and work in space too with the zone scheme. They're starting Axel Rushmeyer at left guard, a veteran who's been around the program. Chuck Filiaga transferred from Michigan, coming in to play right guard. And then really, Mark, the question mark is right tackle right now. It's sort of become a battle between Martez Lewis and Quinn Carroll. If I had to guess right now, it's probably Martez Lewis winning the job. We'll see how it shakes out. We haven't been at practice for about a week now, just as things kind of wrap up and they're getting ready for the season. But if I had to handicap that, that's kind of the position that still hasn't been filled yet when it comes to starters. But I feel like Minnesota's offensive line, it's all about continuity early on, but I do think they have good talent up front.
Yes, Ferris, you're right. We do need a Minnesota channel among our 25 for the Voice of College Football. We'll get on that at some point. I got all I can handle at this point, and everyone else that's wanting some Iowa talk, keep in mind we're wrapping up our series. We brought guests on here to represent the entire schedule across the board. So we wanted to get the Gopher perspective as a main foe here in the Big Ten Western Division. And Iowa's pretty much owned this series pretty well, a really tight, intriguing game, 27-22 last year, Daniel.
Yeah, it's 3 or 4 plays in the 19 game, the 21 game. You look at some of the moments in those games. I look at last season, it's a really close game at the end, and you're looking at, kicking that long 50-plus yard field goal. It gets blocked. You call the swing pass. It's like 3rd and 3, and you lose 4 yards. And maybe you're better off backing Iowa's offense up with a punt. And then right after that moment, it's a lightning rod play to Keegan Johnson, and the whole game changes. And you look at, some of the plays in the 2019 game too. It came right down to the end. I always say that football, in those close games where teams are really even, I firmly believe it's like 3 or 4 plays that end up defining the game. And that's been the case with Minnesota. Are they able to get over that hump, make the plays that you need to make to win those types of games?